morning, Facebook. How you doing? Wow, I thought for a minute there that we weren't gonna see y'all this evening, but guess what? We're here live, and we're back again with the Ruby Girl Talk Show with your favorite Dr. K, also known as the favorite Ruby Girl. And tonight I'm bringing back one of my favorite guests. She has a new book out, and we want to just talk about something that's really deep. And what we want to talk about is how our voices as women has been silenced, how people want us to be quiet. You know, when you go to church or go somewhere and they say, hey, could you put your cell phone on silent, please? And for us as women, our voices, what we have to say and how we matter has been just silent. So tonight, we want to give a voice to what we need to say and just let women know how important it is for them to show up, to speak loud, and to speak confident. So before we get started, I want Dr. Anissa to go on my page, which she probably has because she's very, very efficient. Find this video and start to share it. And while she does that, I'm going to give my $16 million commercial. You know, inflation, the tariffs, all that stuff like that. So I am Dr. K once again. I am the founder and CEO of Ruby Girl. Ruby Girl, and Ruby Girl comes from Proverbs 31:10. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above the price of a ruby? So, ladies, this special is just for you. It makes you rare, virtuous, and it's always valuable. So you can always connect with me where? At rubygirl.net. And this Thursday, I'm doing an AI class at 6 p.m. So if you always wanted to know about AI, go to rubygirl.net and register there. So let's get into the show. Let's get into this because it's going to be good tonight. Dr. Anissa, would you like
Hey,
to introduce yourself?
hey, Dr. K, first and foremost, thank you for an opportunity to be a part of this awesome platform. As I already shared, my name is Dr. Anissa Short. I am an author, a speaker, I am a publisher, and I am a mentor to women in business as well as professional women. And my number one goal is to help them to help them in building their confidence, in influencing their platform, and encouraging them to have value in their voice so that what they have to offer is becomes an extension of who they are. It becomes an extension of what they do. It's a part of their brand. Your voice and your brand go hand in hand because you are your brand. And so I love working with women as a coach, and I love speaking at women's events. And then, of course, my books are geared towards educating, empowering, and influencing women. And then, of course, I want to help you create your signature book. And so in the publishing realm, I do encourage women to put their voice on paper in a published piece, whether it be a devotional, their memoir, or a self-help book. But that's just, and I'm a wife. I'm a auntie. I'm a mother, daughter. I'm a child of the Most High God. Yeah, so that's who I am. That's who I be.
That's a lot of being, girl. You be being busy, don't you?
I try to stay busy. I heard it keeps you out of trouble.
You know what it do? People like they ask me why I'm busy all the time. I said, look, I've learned that idle mind. They're not lying about that.
That's right.
The
Yeah.
devil really gets busy when you sitting around. The thoughts that he
Got too
planned.
many thoughts going. That's the truth. That's the
Yes.
truth.
So thank you for that great introduction. Did you include not your email, your website in there?
Well, you can find me on anissashort.com. I'm
Okay.
on that's my website, anissashort.com. But I am, and that website has to be revamped, but nevertheless, I'm there. And then on all social media platforms, I'm Dr. Anissa Short. That'll be
Okay.
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
I love that consistency all the way around. People don't have to guess who you are on Instagram, who you are
No,
on Facebook. Just
I'm the same
consistency,
person.
girl.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it started. I want you to share the journey of writing this book about. All right, the quintessential woman. Did I say
You
it
did
right?
it. Yes, girl,
Oh
you did it.
my God, I've been practicing
You did it.
all day, y'all. And what is a quintessential woman?
The word quintessential in a nutshell means basically a classy, duplicatable model. Okay. A model that is worthy of duplication, so to say. So when I add that with woman, I'm saying basically that as a woman, that should be our end goal, to be a model not a model of perfection, but a model of excellence, one that can be duplicatable. And that's why your voice is so important. We'll talk more about that because the life experiences, my experience doesn't necessarily have to be your experience, but nevertheless, what we have to offer can help someone. And then they can pattern their life and we can help them navigate decisions so that either they do what we did to receive what we received or they don't do what we did so they can get a better result.
I like that. I like how you explained it because when I seen the word, I don't know if I just have not seen it ever or never paid any attention to it. And I had the hardest part just pronouncing it alone.
Pronouncing
And then,
it. Yeah.
yeah, and then I was like, I like it. It's long, but it means something. It's got to be something special
Yeah.
when it comes to women.
Quintessential.
And I think God is reminding us of who we are as his daughters. I think we have gotten so far from the blueprint that
Yes.
God created for our life, trying to do it ourselves because things are not working, not understanding because we pulled away from God. That's why things are different from us now because we're doing it our way or culture's way. So we're going to get back to the basics of what a woman's supposed to be. And what better foundation than the Proverbs 31 woman? And this
Yeah.
is what her book is based off of. And you know, of course, I loved it. I was like, oh my God, another Proverbs 31 connection. So you
Yeah.
speak about identity often. You really speak about identity, and you're really big on that. But what does it truly mean to be a quintessential woman? And how can women break free from cultural or religious boxes to embrace all of who they are? So I guess let's break it down.
Okay.
Um, to be what does it mean to show up as that quintessential woman as described in Proverbs 31 and 10?
Okay, so I think it's important to start with identity first, okay? And to
Yes.
go to your point with regards to how we define ourselves, what pattern, what blueprint, or what definition are we adopting to identify ourselves? And so we have the culture's way of identifying ourselves. We have religious circles that have a way of identifying us, and then we have the blueprint, and the blueprint is the Bible. Now, some people will say, "Well, Anissa, how do you separate the Bible from religious?" Well, a lot of religious doctrine is not biblically based. Let's be clear. They may have pulled a scripture out to establish the foundation of what they teach, but it's not kingdom. It's religion. Religion binds. Kingdom is freedom. Kingdom teaching is freedom. So when you understand who God said you were from the beginning of time, and this is what I love because it speaks to what role you play. When we look at Genesis, if you're a believer, this makes sense. It should make sense. If you're not a believer, some of this may sound foreign to you, but just know that our Creator, after creating the heavens and the earth and all that jazz, He created Adam first. And then Adam was, there in that garden, just hanging out with the animals and all that jazz. And then God made a decision that he was not to be alone. It was not good for him to be alone. First of all, that's what he said. He said, I will make a helpmeet suitable for him, which meant that he needed a companion that complemented who he was, a companion that complemented. Not that they were just alike, but the person was to be an excellent complement, which means then they were similar, but not identical. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
And then after Eve came on the scene, God gave them a mandate. Adam and Eve, he said, you should take dominion, subdue, multiply, basically take over, handle business, right?
Yeah.
That assignment, that job description was not given to Adam until after Eve showed up. So that means Adam and Eve both had the assignment to take dominion, subdue, multiply. Y'all get it. Go find it. It's in the Bible. It's in there, right? And while they are companions, they are similar, but not identical, which tells me then they both have the same responsibility, but they go about it differently, possibly because they think differently. But their thinking and their operation might differ, but they still complement. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yes.
So when I understand that I am married, I'm a married woman. My husband is phenomenal in his own right, and so am I. He chose me to be his wife. I am his helpmeet. I operate differently, he operates differently, but the common denominator is still to take dominion, subdue, multiply, and replenish. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
What culture tells us is that we women should be independent of their spouses totally. I don't agree with that, because if you're married, maybe if you're single, you can, but if you're married, everything should be done as in a covenant union. You know what I mean? So you become one. It's a whole different conversation. So what culture tells us is that you need to choose one or the other. So you're either going to be a mama or you're going to be a career woman. And usually what happens is we're so dedicated to our career 70, 80 hours a week, the family goes lacking in some capacity, because I really can't be in both places. I'm not saying it to be judgmental, but that's just the truth of the matter, right? Then the religious circles tell us that we should be totally subservient, not submission, but really they use the word submission, but what they describe as being subservient. That's what they do. People can agree or disagree, but that's just I'm sticking with it. So they tell us that we have to be subservient to our spouses, and our focus should be on just our husbands and children alone and nothing else. So that if they have desires and dreams that they want to fulfill, that you should just leave that alone, because that's unnecessary. Well, no, that totally goes against the grain. You know what I'm saying? So I had these conversations in my head in my quiet time with God during a period of time. And then I said, God, if I when I was a single woman, I was, working, taking care of myself, bought a home, all of this kind of stuff before I got married. Because my attitude was, well, I'm not married. I don't have to sit and wait for a husband to buy a house. They'll sell me one too. That kind of thing. I don't have to sit and wait for a husband to buy a car. I can travel. I can do all these things independently. I can serve in my church. I can serve be there for my family. I don't have anybody that I have to answer to or negotiate with. But then when you get married, your priorities shift. But if you're still wanting to invest in real estate and still want to travel and still want to make a difference in the community, does it really have to stop? It may need to shift in priority because you have other responsibilities. So I'm like, well, all that sounds good, but I need to give me an example. And he gave me the Proverbs 31 woman. Now, I don't know about you, Dr. K, but prior to me reading it is in its entirety and studying it, the only time I heard about the Proverbs 31 woman is when I was in church and they told me as a young lady I needed to be groomed to be a wife. And so I need to learn how to sew, cook, and take care of my husband. Because that's what a virtuous woman does. And that's in the scriptures, it is. But you didn't say anything about her buying land and selling in the marketplace. You didn't say anything. How did y'all leave all that out? You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So yeah. So that's kind of where I start with. When you truly understand who God designed you to be and the mandate he has over your life, how he identifies you, then you find a way within the scope of or the dynamics of your household dynamic or your lifestyle dynamic to fulfill it. And nobody else should argue with you because they're arguing with God in essence. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. You know what? When you were talking about how they talked about it doing when we were younger, and you're right, it was about the virtuous woman. We never picked up on the entrepreneur
They
side of
didn't teach it,
her,
Dr. K. That
or
was
the
not a part.
business side.
They didn't teach it.
But you got to think of the culture when we were growing up was that mostly, women were in the house. They didn't have a career like we
That's
did. So,
true.
so they were teaching us from culture. But now that we're reading the whole word of God and we really digging deep into it, now we was like, we didn't have to stay in a house like that. We
But
could, you
that's a
know.
good point, Dr. K. But here's another thing. In
Mhm.
biblical times, it was more common for women to be. We have to look at everything in context.
Mhm.
In biblical times, women weren't even considered. They were like property.
Yes.
When they got ready to be married, the man had to bring money to this father to pretty much, come up with I can't even think of the term they use now, but they had
Dowry.
dowry, yeah.
Okay.
And the woman had no identity in the community. She had to have a husband was what established her in the community, but it was through her husband exclusively. Even so much so that if he were to die, well, even before he died, it was important to have sons versus women or daughters. Daughters were good, but they wanted sons because in the event the spouse died, the sons then took over the livelihood of the family. If you as a woman had no husband and he died and you had no sons, then you became something, I'm going to use synonymous with the ward of the state. You had no value, you had no voice, you were just people. You were left to
Mhm.
yourself. So in biblical times, that was pretty much the case as well. But the Proverbs 31 woman was not that woman. She was not that woman exclusively. So yes, she was in biblical times where much of that was the same. Culturally, we were, the husband was the provider. The husband was a provider. But I'm gonna take another step. My grandmother worked as a domestic. My grandfather worked at the dairy farm. Okay.
Mhm.
And that was their jobs. But in addition to that, my grandfather worked the markets and selling produce on the weekend. So he was an entrepreneur. My grandmother was a seamstress. Now, if they both were alive, of course, they'd be well over 100 years old. So while there were some people who in the community that didn't work, they didn't do anything, they relied strictly on their husbands. My grandmother was entrepreneurial, as was my grandfather. So when you say culturally, that's how we were. It depends on the circle you were in.
Mm.
So
Okay.
whose circle, who in, and then not only that, what community you come up in, what circle you were in, and then who are you gonna listen to?
That's true. And you're right. That's what I always liked about her. She was like a modern day woman because,
Yeah.
like, I had talked about it on another show that I looked up when women could own land. That was like in 1839, and I know that was not 1839 when the Bible was talking about her. But then you got to go back and think about Prophetess Deborah.
Yeah,
She was a judge. She was
she
leading a
was.
nation. So
Right.
if you look in the Word, you'll see women that were in roles that we've been told that they wasn't in roles until 1839 or 1970 or all this.
Mhm.
And it's like we started off having a certain dominion, a certain power, a certain freedom, I would say.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line we got silenced, we got told we should not do this. We've been told a lot about what we should not do instead of what we should. We have the
Yeah.
word used against us, and we
Right.
go in the marketplace, they tell us you need this and that, we get this and that, and it's still not enough. It's like, what do we do as women to be recognized? When God recognizes us, we was his last creation. When we got here, we didn't need anything. With Adam,
Mhm.
it was not good. And then we was created for man. So it's like we're his special creation. But
Right.
we know what the problem is. The enemy comes after us because we carry the seed of God, which is Jesus. So we can expect to be attacked. We can be expect to be trying to be made lesser than, but when we're really not. We are daughters of the king, just like
Yeah.
his sons of the kings. We're daughters
Right.
of the king.
Exactly.
And so, how can we break free from the cultural or religious boxes to embrace who we are? And you say it's an identity. I think we need to know who we are,
We need
who
to.
God
We need to.
created us to be.
Right. Right. You need to go back to the manufacturer. If you want to know how to operate the washing machine or the dryer, if your appliance is not operating as it should, there's a little manual they give you that tells you what to look for. Then they tell you to contact the manufacturer if you need further help. Well, if I want to understand who I am and my gifts and talents and how I should embrace my purpose and things of that nature, I need to consider the manufacturer. Right. So in the beginning, he said man and woman should have dominion, subdue, multiply. They should have dominion. So that means there's a certain level of dominion that I'm supposed to have as well, whether that be an individual as a woman or as a married woman. As a married woman.
I
And
feel
when
like,
God said we're a
mhm,
helpmeet, that
mhm.
means them they needed us to, like I tease my husband sometimes. I'll say, babe, da 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 da. He said, I got it, I got it. I said, well, I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm just working in my assignment to be your helpmeet.
And you know what really stood out to me was a suitable helper.
Right.
We I think sometimes we as women take that to me a suitable remaker, that we're remaking this man, that we're here to point out his faults, or we're here to tell him what's wrong in his life, and then we fix it, not realizing that even through the Bible says that the married woman cared for the things of the world, her husband. It does not mean that we don't have our own things that we have to take care of too, but we have to,
Hmm.
like you say, prioritize. Now that
Right.
I'm married, where I used to like to do this and like to do that, I can't do that if it interferes with my marriage or if it interferes with my family, because my family and my husband are not my priority.
Right, exactly. It's just a matter of shifting priorities. That's all it is. It's just a matter of shifting priorities. That's why it's so important, I feel, that you truly understand who you are and you operate in from a kingdom perspective, because what that's going to do, this is what I believe, honestly, and I believe this because this is what happened for me. I was not concerned with trivial dating. I'm not saying anything wrong with going to get a free meal and a movie. Don't get me wrong. But I was not a casual dater. As a matter of fact, I went to work and I came home. I went to church and I came home. If I did anything, it was with my friends. And if guys were there, then that's great. But I wasn't one of these, entertaining the company of a male all the time, because that's what my cup of tea. I was a homebody intentionally, because that was not I was busy doing my own thing, buying property, things of that nature, getting degrees, learning new crafts, that kind of stuff. And then when I met my husband, he had an appreciation for who I was and what I was doing. So when we came together as one, he never tried to change me. He never changed me. He never said I had to stop doing this or stop doing that. You know what I mean? But because I understood that my role changed, I reprioritized some things. So I didn't hang out with my girlfriends as much as I would have. No, I'm not doing road trips on the weekends because I'm married. That kind of thing. So yeah, there's going to be some adjustments, but at the same time, my interest in investing in real estate, my interest in being an entrepreneur, my interest in none of that had to change, because he had an appreciation for me and for that in who I was. Now, if you don't know who you are and you're not walking in that confidence, then what happens is that as soon as you see a man that's showing interest, you make changes to who you are to try to be with him. You make changes to who you are to try to be with him because you want to win him over. You win him over, you have the wedding, and then you don't feel fulfilled because you've changed so much of who you are to become a part of his life, that now you feel like, who am I? You get lost. So you have children, and nothing wrong with that. I love the babies. And then you become the mom. So you're not the wife, now you're the mom. But then years pass. If the kids are grown and gone, and you really don't have a close connection with your spouse, then you like, well, what am I to do now? Who am I? I'm not a wife anymore. I'm not a mother anymore. Who am I? You follow what I'm saying? You
Yes.
lose yourself in the roles and not who the identity. God gave us gifts and talents, and we're supposed to be operating in those and using them to take dominion, subdue, you know what I'm saying? And so yeah, so I think that inadvertently we've allowed culture to seep into what we think we should be and we should be, and we've allowed religion to seep in to tell us who we are and who we should be. And that's not always, I think it's not always good. It really isn't.
I agree with you. I think that a lot of things just need to be evaluated. A lot of things we go along because the wheel has been rolling like this for so long.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody has to stop the wheel and check the wheel,
Hmm.
inspect it, and say, hey, is this thing rolling right? So with
Yeah.
us, I think we as women have to stop and say, when it comes to us being wives, being business women, how we show up in the community, period,
Hmm.
that we got
Right.
to understand that our voices are not squeaky voices, but our voices, they have a level of authority
They
too.
do. They
And
really
going
do.
back to Genesis, when he said he gave them both the mandate, you know,
Both.
Adam couldn't be fruitful and multiply until we came along. So
Hmm.
we gave a whole nother dimension to what he was doing in the garden. Now he's not just tending a garden. Now he can reproduce. Now
Hmm.
he can populate the earth. Now he don't have to keep looking at the elephants in love and the dogs in
Hmm.
love and all that. Now he's in love because he
But you
has a
know what?
good thing.
But Dr. K, it's even bigger than that. A lot of times we stay on, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. We
Mhm.
were put here to populate the earth. I get it, but even in your production, your reproducing, it has a lot to do with even mentorship, your level of influence in the community. Who are you mentoring? Whose lives are you impacting? How are you giving back? Because you raise your children in your home, but everybody doesn't have children. My
Mhm.
husband and I are married. We don't have kids. So are we not reproducing? Are we not
Okay.
producing? We don't have physical children, but the books we've written is a part of our legacy. So the words that we give and things of that nature are serving to inspire and encourage. You follow what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
to give people a sense of direction, to serve as a source of inspiration and motivation. That's producing as well. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes
Yeah.
sense. All right, so we're gonna take a break. And while we take a break, I'm gonna go on Facebook and see who's commenting, who's watching, give them a little shout out, let them feel famous just a little bit. So we're gonna give Dr. Anissa, we're gonna give her 60 seconds to say whatever she wants to say. And I bet you it's gonna have something to do about the quintessential. My goodness, the QW woman. I can't get it out now. So go right ahead.
I apologize. I hit mute somehow. Thanks, Dr. K,
Okay.
again for this opportunity. Yes, my book, The Quintessential Woman, is available now on Amazon. It is a devotional slash journal of sorts. It's a case study of the Proverbs 31 woman, and the focus is leadership and legacy. It really is about leadership and legacy. So whether you're a mom, a ministry leader, whether you're a director of a nonprofit, whether you're an entrepreneur or career professional, all of that is encompassed in this one book. If you are a single woman with aspirations, you're building your life, you're just getting started, you really don't know, you need a blueprint. Let's just say that you need a blueprint. This is the book to get. Go to Amazon now and secure your copy. The Quintessential Woman. It is the Success Strategist guide. We're focusing again on leadership and legacy, and we're evaluating the Proverbs 31 woman like never before. I believe you're gonna read this book and you're gonna go, oh my goodness, I never saw it that way. And I hope that's your outcome. If you get a copy, go to Amazon and be sure to leave me a review. I appreciate you if you do.
Because guess who's got their copy? I have a copy of the book too, so don't y'all be jealous, but I do. I have my book. I got my book. He says it's gonna show up just a little bit, but I got my book yesterday. So what I like about the book is that it's also it has call to actions, and then it has life application. It's not that she's just talking about Proverbs 31, she's expounding on it, she's letting it apply to your life, because a lot of times women are like, well, I don't need to be that Proverbs 31 woman. She was married, what can I get from her? You can get a lot from her. Her character,
Yeah,
her
yeah,
work ethic, her integrity for one,
yeah.
and how she was honored and carried herself and the things
Right,
that she produced, you know. So it's a
right.
lot you can get out this book. And so it's like a workbook also. You've got notes in here. Of course, you got the word, of course. And so she breaks it down by verses. Each verse is in here that she breaks down about that Proverbs 31 woman. So it's a wonderful book. I can't wait to get time to really dive into it. And she's excited about it too.
I am. Let me tell you something. This was the first book I wrote, really
Uh-huh.
was, even though it was the most recent published, which is my 10th. I wrote this book not knowing I was writing a book. Let me just say it because it was really my own personal Bible study. I was in a window of time where I was in like I call a quiet season. And I began to have conversations with God about what am I supposed to do next, things of that nature. And the Proverbs 31 woman was given to me as a case study because my question to God, He had given to me years ago that I was to serve as a mentor or a coach for women in business, professional women. And so women come in all facets. They're married, they're single, they're divorced, they're widowed, that kind of thing. It didn't matter. And I'm like, well, I can talk about what it's like to be a married woman because I was married, but what about single women? I needed a pattern. And he that's where he took me to Proverbs 31 because it applies to every woman, whether she's married or not. If you're married, it's got nuggets in there for you. If you desire to be married, it's got nuggets. If you're not married, it's got nuggets on how to live, just how to prioritize and live with intentionality and with purpose.
Hey, well, when I went out there and looked on Facebook, we had two people that commented out there. We got people watching, but they're scared to comment.
Don't be
No,
scared.
they
Don't be
didn't want to
scared.
shout out today. So I seen Venetia, she was out there, and Blair Cherie, she was out there and said, "Hey, ladies, what's going on? I
Hi.
just want to give a shout out to my commenters that's out there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in to the Ruby Girl Show. And we had some shares, so thank you for everybody that shared the Ruby Girl Talk Show. So this is the same part, and we're like we say, we are excited about talking about this Proverbs 31 woman. She is not how can I put, she's not outdated. To me, she's updated. Really. If you
Mhm.
look at her compared to back then, she's very up, a very forward-thinking woman. And so the Proverbs 31 woman, is often seen, you said, as a wife and a homemaker, but she was busy. She was clearly the businesswoman. She was clearly able to handle whatever role that came her way. It was like she was not deficient. And for some women, they find that to be overwhelming because they was like, she was like a former superwoman. No, she was a woman that was walking in her purpose. We
Using her
get
gifts and
burnt out
talent.
when we're not
Yep.
walking. Yes, when we're not walking in our purpose, or like you said, we get lost in our role so much that what's inside of us, we keep suppressing it, suppressing it. And it's like fighting to get out. We're like, no, I'm a wife. I'm not supposed to be a businesswoman.
Yeah, I'm not
No,
supposed to
I'm a
have a
mother.
business. Right. I'm a mother. I'm not
Yes,
supposed
I'm
to,
in the,
you know.
I just cook not clean. So that wears you out because you're literally fighting your own true self. And like you said, by the time the kids are gone, you and your husband are looking at each other like, who are you? And you like, well, I want to do this. And he's like, that's not the woman I married. So
Yeah,
you
right.
know, you hear couples talking about they grew apart or grew away from each other. No, you just discovered yourself. So let's get back to this. So how does your book help modern women embrace that same entrepreneur spirit and stay aligned to their biblical purpose in the home? All
Okay,
right, she got to
so
put the glasses on
I
for
got it
this
because I
one,
got to
y'all.
look. I'm a woman of a certain age, so I have to be able to see clearly so y'all can hear me better. So what I did in this book, and what's now, mind you, I mean, let me say this: this was not written to be a book for other people. This was my own Bible study. These were the things that God downloaded to me, and then I had it in a notebook. I was told to write it out and put it in a notebook form. And then years later, he said, you'll be prepared to publish it. And I'm like, I didn't had at this point hadn't read it, hadn't read. I mean, this was maybe, I don't know, 17 years ago. I hadn't published it out in one book. This is literally the first book I wrote, but it's the most recent one I published. This is the 10th. Okay. And one of the reasons why is because I can never think of how it should be laid out. Should it be laid like a journal? Should it be a book? Self-help? What's going to be the name of it? I, for the longest time, couldn't come up with a name. And then Quintessential came to mind. And I was like, God, what does that mean? And I looked it up and I went, oh, that's it. This is going to be the title. Okay. So really, this is the beginning of a movement. It's going to be my platform because every woman's voice has value. And so as a quintessential woman, my mandate is to help you to understand the fact that your voice has value and it needs to be shared because you are a quintessential woman as well. Okay. So I'm gonna start with your favorite scripture, verse 10. It says, who could find a
Hey.
virtual woman for her price is far above rubies? Now, you guys know if you follow Dr. K, you already know that's her favorite, right? So, virtuous is synonymous with worthy, honorable, upright, and honest. The word denotes the person's character, not necessarily her occupation or the function she serves and operates. One who is, quote, virtual has an immeasurable price. In this verse, her price is defined as far above rubies, which speaks to A, the value she holds, and B, the rarity and uniqueness of her existence. Rubies are not as common as other gemstones. Therefore, they command the highest price of all. Did y'all know that? Rubies are not often found like diamonds. And even when they find them, the deeper red they are, the more valuable they are. You know what I mean? So here's the application. The standard you set for yourself is unlike the standards set by others. The average person is considered by common standards, but not you. While others may pursue success as you do, the standard by which you operate is higher. Your character, not external forces such as race, weight, education, marital status, etc., distinguishes you from all others. The very essence of who you are determines your worth. Remember daily that you are the child of a king. You are of the king. You are a part of a royal priesthood. You are loved. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are worthy, honorable, upright, and honest. These are the standards that set you apart, and these are the standards that bring you favor in the eyes of God and man. So I start first with identity. That's what that verse is really
Mhm.
saying. So who am I?
Mhm.
And if I'm not who I need to be, then I need to get there because that's who God. I need to embrace the identity God gave me. He says, my price is far above rubies. So I'm not a cubic zirconia, which is man-made and artificial. You know what I'm saying? I'm a ruby.
Mhm.
I'm a ruby. So it throughout this book, I give practice. Now that has to do with identity because everything starts there. Think about it. That's what Satan enticed Adam and Eve with in the garden with their identity. Even after Jesus came after his 40-day fast, 40 days and 40 nights, and Satan met him, the first thing he did was want to question his identity. Identity is always the first thing that comes. That's what the children of Israel dealt with. They saw themselves as grasshoppers. You follow what I'm saying? Identity. So I start there. He said we were more valuable than rubies. And so we have to understand that. We have to understand that. So then there's a lot of different, some of the verses I use in entirety. Some I break up because they have so much juice in this. Let me give you another one. Here's another one. Her husband is respected at the city gate. That's verse 23, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. Now, it is my understanding that the city gate was not merely the place of entrance and exit from the city, but the location where the men of influence made decisions. Do you remember the story of Ruth and Boaz in Ruth 4? Once it was determined that Boaz wanted to marry Ruth, he had to consult counsel from the elders. They met at the gate. That's what the scripture says. Now that we've established the importance of the city gate, we also see that her husband is respected in this place of prominence. Does this mean that every woman will have a husband who sits on the city council or serves as an elected officer? Absolutely not. However, it does imply that her husband will be a man of character who is respected and walks with integrity. He is trusted by comrades and is identified as one with sound judgment. He stands in his conviction and he fears God. That's who her husband was. So here's the life application. If married, if unmarried, remain single until such a man finds you. So that's what we should be looking at: his integrity, his character, how he's just perceived, not whether or not having a good job and a home and that kind of thing is fine. But the character is what makes the man. In the meantime, get busy designing your future, unmarried woman. If you are married, do everything within your power to protect, support, respect, and affirm the godly character of your spouse. And then the call to action is to pray for your spouse or your future spouse. That's the call to action. So there are parts in here that apply to women that are married, and then there are parts in here that apply to people that just women, period. You know what I mean? There's one that I really love. Let me tell you something, girl. This is the one that blessed my whole soul. Let me find it. When I read this, I was like, my husband, I can remember that my husband came home from work that day because I worked from home. And so
Uh-huh.
and then with that day, I was like, I cannot wait to share this with him. And then when I said, guess what? I'm gonna read something to you. And when I read it to him, and I told him, he said,
Mhm.
"You are so crazy." I said, "We've been doing this thing wrong the whole time." So here's the thing. It says in verse 15, I did verse 15 and a 15a and a 15b. So verse 15 says, she rises while it's yet night and gives meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. That's the King James version. There's another version that says she gives assignments to her maid servants, is what it says. Um, so the two things that I got from this is that one, she was an early riser and her first priority was to her family. She got
Mhm.
that's what she did. And my story is, I tell a little bit about my grandma. I'm not gonna go into all of that because you can get the book, you can get your own copy and read it. And then I said, her first priority was to her family. When
Yes.
she got up that morning, the first thing on her agenda was taking care of her family. Then the second thing it says is that we've expounded on this woman's prioritization of her time, relationships, and activities. We understand that the stability of her domestic life is vital. She does what it takes to secure a home and those in it. That said, it also seems that she didn't juggle it all alone. She had help. Tell me, who are these maids? Contrary to Contrary to what mainstream media and the culture of society may suggest, no woman was ever intended to do it alone. There is wisdom in getting help, even if you must hire it. We may not use the terms maidens anymore, but a personal assistant is a lifeline to many. In our culture, my grandmother was the domestic. She got up in the morning, she cooked breakfast and dinner for her family, and then she left the house to go work in somebody else's home, take care of their house, clean, cook, and take care of their kids. Then she came back home. That's in my culture and on many of the African American cultures. Even if your family grandmother wasn't a domestic, the thing was is that we did it all. We took care of the job and we took care of home. I was in my early 20s, maybe, yeah, 27, 28 maybe. A coworker of mine, daughter got married, and she just had her first baby, and she was in her early 20s. I may have been 30, but anyway, I'm talking with my coworker, and she's expressing how grateful she was. She's so excited, got this new grandbaby. Her daughter is so exhausted and tired as a new mom, yada yada yada. And she says, but I told her, and I can't remember the lady's name, so let's just say Louise. I told her, late, you got Miss Louise helping you. Why are you trying to do it all by yourself? That's what you need to have her to do more. And I went, who is Miss Louise? And she said, oh, that's her housekeeper. So I go, this girl just got married. She already got a housekeeper. I said, so that's somebody she hired to help her with the baby? She says, no, she was always her housekeeper, but she just does whatever she needs her to do. So now here's the dynamic. She started off her married life with a housekeeper because her daughter was a career daughter. She had a job and everything. She was newly married, but she had a housekeeper from the start, from the jump street. She now has a baby, and she has someone to help her with her baby in her home, in addition to her family. So she has already been indoctrinated, or it was commonly understood, obviously, that you need help. So you had somebody there in the home. What do? We still working full time. We have the baby. We try to do it all by ourselves. Now, some of us are fortunate to have parents, a mom or mother-in-law or grandmother to come help, but we don't have a maid. We don't have a nanny. We don't have an au pair. We don't do that. And then we look at the other people and say, well, I don't understand why they need all of that. Well, we're wearing ourselves out, and they just as free. They have somebody cleaning the house. They don't have to do that. That's one less thing they have to do. You know what I mean? They got somebody to buying the groceries and running the errands for them. That's one less thing they have to do. What if you didn't have to do as much as you had to do? How important is that for you? That's what the Proverbs 31 woman did. So when I read that, Dr. K, I got me a housekeeper. I said, she can't come every week, but she can come twice a week. She can come once a month. They do the deep cleaning. Why do we not do? Because our culture tells us, in the African American community, they'll tell us we're lazy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what they'll say. Our mamas and grandmamas will say we're lazy. They're quick to say that. But if I understand who I am, King's kids don't do laundry. They don't clean the house. They got somebody to do that. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. You're real royalty.
So we're gonna be royalty, and we're gonna be cleaning the house too. Now, I'm not saying everybody can do that. My point I'm making is that you shouldn't have to do it alone. Why can't you solicit help? Why can't you have someone to assist you? Why is that a luxury and not a common way of life? Even as a single woman, why can't you do it?
It's good that you brought up that point because something popped in my mind. That could be why a lot of us suffer from anxiety
We do.
because we're so
Stress.
overwhelmed. It's like I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And we're built to handle it. But I'm finding now that we're breaking down as women far as the anxiety. I've talked to so many women and I deal with it myself when it comes to anxiety. And I can tell you when you get anxiety attack, it's just all the tasks that you have to do in your head.
Yep.
And you're trying to say, okay, I'm gonna focus and do this, and you just cannot focus. So you're right.
Right.
We need
You
more
weren't meant to do
help.
it. You need to secure help. I read a story just yesterday. It broke my heart. A mother daughter, a mother and a husband and wife had a daughter that needed to go off to school, but their jobs required them to be at work before they could take the child to school, right? So they confided in a neighbor in the neighborhood to make sure their daughter got to school. The neighbor was raping the daughter, and they didn't realize it. Okay. Now, am I faulting the parents? No, because they didn't know that. But here's the thing. Why couldn't you have hired somebody that you knew, that you had a relationship with, a woman or somebody that could be there? That's where these things come into play. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So rather than getting another luxury vehicle, allocate some money to have somebody come and take your daughter to school, because you're going to pick her up. Somebody that you pay that you could offer them gas money, or somebody that you trust. You have retired women in the community that may go to your church, somebody in your family that might be able to do it. My mom, I didn't even know my mother worked a job, honestly, because she left after we went to school. And when we got home, most of the time she was home because she worked in retail. Later, when her position changed, there were times when we would get out of school when she wasn't home. But my aunts picked us up. or my aunt was at the house waiting on us. She didn't rely on anybody, any old body. You follow me? So
Yes.
there's an answer. Some of us don't have family nearby. There's an answer. And I'm not saying all of this to be negative or to be judgmental of the struggles that we have, because everybody's dynamic is not the same. What I am saying is this, that the culture has taught us a methodology by which to live that is detrimental to the livelihood of our families and even ourselves. And the church, the religious communities, not because I'm a believer and I attend church, but the religious idiosyncrasies have also taught us and indoctrinated us in a way that is not serving our communities well. But when God gives us examples in the book,
Mhm.
why can't we apply those to our lives? There are stories to be read, but there are stories to apply, and there are nuggets. And that's what God gave me. He gave me nuggets for women. This is our blueprint. The Proverbs 31 woman is a blueprint. We may not be every I and every T, but we can pull from it and apply it.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's good. All right, got one more question before we close out. What are some of the practical ways? Okay, I'm gonna try it again. The the quintessential.
Quintessential.
Oh boy,
Quintessential.
what happened? Quintessential. Can't, I gotta yell it. Quintessential woman can use her business to build a legacy. How can she? What are some of the what are some of the practical ways?
Okay, so in the storyline itself, there's an example where it talks about and I raised this in one of the verses where it says that she considers a field and buys it. And then in that field, she decides to plant a vineyard. And I asked the question, why a vineyard? If you're going to plant a field, for those who garden, don't you need some beans and greens and, that kind of thing? I immediately went there because food, that kind of thing. You could feed your community kind of thing. But it talked about she planted a vineyard. And then I looked up what it takes to plant a vineyard. And you have to wait, I don't know how many years before it even started producing grapes. And even in the process, you have to prune it, you have to still nurture it and feed it and fertilize it and do all of this. And then it starts to produce grapes. And then you have to wait so many more years before it starts to produce grapes consistently. You know what I mean? So by the time I think it's something like 10 years, you're 10 years in before it even starts producing. But get this, once it starts, it can produce grapes for 50 to 100 years. So think about now, what comes from grapes. We get grape jelly, we get our grapes in the grocery store, we get wine, you know what I'm saying? We get all of that from grapes. So I said, wow, she wasn't looking at immediate gratification. She was investing in something that was going to live beyond her. Okay. So how do we as quintessential women, as modern day women, as single women and or married women, we have to make decisions that are going to make an impact. It's going to be a sacrifice now, but it's going to live beyond you. So what you put into your children now are not immediate gratifications. It's easy to say yes to some things, but if you really know it's not in their best interest, then it's going to be hard to say no. But you got to say no, because you're not looking at what benefits them now. You're looking at what's going to benefit them even later, and not only them, but even your grandchildren, right? As quintessential women in business, as an entrepreneur, it's great that you have an awesome product and an awesome service, but do you have a signature book to tie to your brand? Because eventually you're not going to be able to work in that business anymore. But you've learned a great deal. You've learned a great deal. You have wisdom about that industry, about that product, about how to operate a business. Can you not put it in a book to help another sister friend? So when you're not here, she can learn from instead of us constantly repeating the same mistakes and errors. You follow what I'm saying? I don't have biological children, but between my husband and I, we have authored close to 15 books. Yeah, because now we're working on children's books in the names of our nephews, so that even when we're not here anymore, my nephews will know I was here, and their children will know because they have books in their names. And my nephew just said, I Googled your name, you're famous. I'm like, am I really? He's like, you're all over Google, TT. I'm like, I didn't know that. He said, you did know that. I was like, no, I didn't. He doesn't understand how it works. But you got to think about the future. Everything you do, it's not about immediate gratification. It's not about immediate gratification. So what decisions can we make that will benefit us now, but more so make a long lasting impression so that it lives beyond us. That's what legacy is. People think of legacy as the cars and the houses and the money, and I'm not knocking it. That is a part of it. But the legacy, the impression, the impact, the level of influence you had in your community, the things that you did that when you leave, people can say, wow, she's not here anymore, but this scholarship is named in her name because she set aside this endowment to benefit these students because she was very adamant about education. She was very much adamant about STEM, that kind of thing. So she created this scholarship. Those are the things that we need to do. And it's not for me to say how you do it. It's up to you to decide how you're going to do it.
All right. Oh, this was a great talk. Great, great, great talk. I mean, we just delved a little bit into the Proverbs 31 woman and the quintessential woman.
You got it.
But it's so much meat. One thing I like about the Bible, it's always meat on the bone. For every story, it's been told for centuries, and it's always a different aspect, a different look to it, a different application, because it's alive. The word is
Yeah.
alive. It's not just a book, it's not just words, it's spiritual, and people need to know. So make sure that y'all go on Amazon. I did put the link in this video and order her book today. When she told me about it and everything, I was like, oh, I gotta get this book. This is gonna be added to my morning devotional. So Dr. Anissa, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank everybody that's out there, everybody that has shared this video. But she's going to give us a 2-minute closeout, and then that's going to be it. Facebook, go ahead, Dr. Anissa, and make sure you give me your contact information.
Okay, so thanks again, Dr. K. As always, I appreciate being a part of this platform. So, as I already shared, my book is available on Amazon. So, I want you to secure a copy for yourself. You can find me on Facebook, Dr. Anissa Short. You can find me on Instagram, Dr. Anissa Short. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Anissa Short, and all across the board. And then my website is anissashort.com. But here's what I want. I not only want you to secure a copy for yourself, but I really want you guys to think about creating a book club. Having a book club, inviting me to be a part of it. Let's make it a conversation with coffee and conversation around this book. If you have a women's conference coming up, this is an excellent addition to your conference content, depending on what it is that your theme. I would love to be a speaker. I would love to facilitate a workshop. If you'd like copies of this in bulk to provide for your Bible study groups or your small groups or things of that nature, this is going to be a key. And this book is so very new. As a matter of fact, I launched it in Women's History Month, with this March. So April and May is my tour months. And so I'm available in all those capacities. And then I have other books that speak to the importance of mentorship, what it is to be a shero. As for me and my house is about entrepreneurship, how to onboard or how to get past the onboarding of friends and family who sometimes aren't as supportive as we would like them to be. 7 Keys to Success is actually the story of the widow with the oil, but I pulled 7 keys out of it that God gave me that's applicable to us in creating success in life and business. Everything I do is geared towards women, is geared towards entrepreneurship. But then I do have a novel. The Gift of Freedom talks about the importance of forgiveness, but it's Christian fiction, but it's a great book. It will be great for entertainment purposes. Me and 3 other ladies pulled together to bring that book out, and it's based in Jamaica. It has everything to do with forgiveness and how life can happen to all of us, but forgiveness is key to us being free. So yeah, let me know how I can serve you. I would love to be a part of what you're doing in this year of 2025. I am thriving in 2025, and I ask God to enlarge my territory. And I know that's going to happen by way of quality relationships. So I look forward to connecting with you.
Hey, thank you. That was a powerful 2 minutes. We done had the power flowing. We're going to owe a big electric bill at the end of this show. So, all right, Dr. Anissa, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody that's out there. I'll be back next week. And as always, I'm looking for guests with a Ruby Girl Talk, because I love talking to people, hearing their stories, and giving them the platform to share. So, all right, we're signing off on Facebook. All right, Facebook, sorry, we got to cut y'all off. We got to talk. So have a great night, Facebook.
Good night, everyone.